Beijing has taken spying to a whole new level. They've got a super sneaky trick up their sleeve that's practically invisible. Here we are talking about tiny computer chips. China's semiconductor industries have unleashed a secret weapon against the US and the rest of the world, and it's got everyone on edge. In today's video, we have some fascinating topics to cover. First, we'll talk about how Chinese companies are infiltrating the US Navy, NATO, and NASA with their chips. Then we discuss how the US is countering this threat. Lastly, we'll discuss the economic implications of this chip war for the rest of the world. But before moving any further, we would ask you to subscribe to the channel for more updates. In recent times, there's been a growing concern about Chinese companies infiltrating important organizations such as the US Navy, NATO, and NASA. These companies have established connections with China's military, raising questions about the security and integrity of sensitive information. One particular company that has faced scrutiny is Hualan Microelectronics, also known as Sage Microelectronics. In July 2021, the United States Department of Commerce took action against Hualan by placing it on the Entity List, which identifies companies that are contrary to the foreign policy interests of the United States. The Bureau stated that Hualan was added to the list because it was attempting to acquire US origin items to support China's military modernization efforts. What makes this situation even more surprising is that, despite being on the Entity List, Hualan's subsidiary called Initio continues to provide specialized chips to Western manufacturers of encrypted hard drives. Initio, which was originally based in Taiwan but later acquired by Hualan in 2016, plays a significant role in the distribution of these chips. Even some Western manufacturers proudly advertise on their websites that prestigious organizations like NASA, NATO, and the US and UK militaries are among their customers. This implies that the chips from Hualan's subsidiary have found their way into the sensitive information networks of these governments. Also, the procurement records of various US government departments, including the Federal Aviation Administration, the Drug Enforcement Administration, and the United States Navy, reveal that they have purchased encrypted hard drives utilizing the chips supplied by Hualan's subsidiary. This raises concerns about the security of their sensitive data, as the chips may have vulnerabilities or undisclosed backdoors that could potentially compromise the integrity of the information stored on these drives. However, it is worth noting that the warnings issued by the Commerce Department about the risks associated with these chips and the actual purchases made by government agencies seem to differ. This discrepancy has created confusion and has led to intensified worries among security experts and analysts. And then, the ownership of the chip vendor by a Chinese company further adds to these concerns. Many experts fear that there might be a secret backdoor embedded within the chips that is allowing unauthorized access to the sensitive information of Western agencies. Although no concrete evidence of such a backdoor has been discovered thus far, and researchers in the field of computer security caution that identifying intentional backdoors would be an extremely challenging task. On the other hand, China has big plans to become a leader in technology by the year 2049, which marks the 100th anniversary of their country's founding. One way they want to achieve this is by producing their own semiconductors instead of relying on other countries. But here's the catch. They have been struggling to catch up with countries like the United States, Taiwan, and South Korea, who are already leading in this field. To make matters more interesting, the United States has put measures in place to limit China's access to important resources needed for making these semiconductors. They have restricted the export of certain items and put controls on transactions between US companies and Chinese firms. The US government wants to prevent China from developing advanced chips and the equipment needed to make them. One specific restriction that has hit China hard is from the Dutch government. They imposed controls on a company called ASML, which makes special machines that are vital for creating advanced chips. China used to be one of ASML's biggest customers, but these controls have limited their access to this crucial technology. This means China might struggle to make the best and most advanced chips on its own. Now, here's where opinions differ. Some people believe that these restrictions might actually help Chinese companies in the long run. They argue that it could push China to develop its own chip-making ecosystem and supply chains. This could make them more competitive and eventually catch up with other countries. However, there are others who think these restrictions will slow down China's progress. They say that without access to the latest technology and support from US companies, it will be challenging for China to develop advanced chips on its own. They also point out that China faces other obstacles like corruption and a lack of expertise in this field. To overcome these challenges, China has announced plans to support its semiconductor industry with funding and subsidies for domestic chip companies. They want to become self-reliant and independent in this important technology. Now, if Western governments need to avoid using chips from restricted Chinese companies, it becomes a challenge because these chips are deeply embedded in various industries. Companies rely on them for manufacturing electronic devices, vehicles, and other critical products. Also, finding alternative suppliers or developing domestic production capabilities takes time and resources. This disruption can lead to supply chain bottlenecks and delays, impacting industries worldwide. To reduce dependence on China, the US is working to bring chip production back to its own country. However, this is a complex and expensive endeavor. It requires significant investments in infrastructure, research, and development. Therefore, if there is a chip war and China stops producing chips altogether, this would have severe consequences for global manufacturing. These chips are crucial components in numerous industries, ranging from consumer electronics to automotive and medical devices. Without an adequate supply of chips, production would significantly decrease. This could lead to a crisis comparable to the Great Depression, causing massive economic disruptions on a global scale. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we experienced a glimpse of the consequences when the global supply chain was disrupted. The semiconductor shortage in particular affected various sectors, notably the automotive industry. Car manufacturers faced production slowdowns and even had to temporarily halt operations, resulting in significant financial losses of over $200 billion. The ripple effects were felt throughout the supply chain, impacting suppliers, dealerships, and consumers. With reduced chip supply, industries would face increased pricing pressures. As demand outstripped supply, prices would rise, leading to higher costs for businesses. Ultimately, these increased costs may be passed on to consumers in the form of higher prices for products and services. Moreover, chip shortages can contribute to inflationary pressures. As businesses incur higher costs to secure scarce chips, they may increase prices across the board to maintain profitability. This, in turn, can lead to a general increase in the cost of living and erode purchasing power. Overall, disruptions in chip production and supply can have far-reaching economic consequences. The interconnectedness of industries and global supply chains means that any major disruptions can trigger a domino effect, impacting businesses, employment, and consumer welfare around the globe. So, in conclusion, it is important for the US and other Western countries to find alternative chip sources to strengthen their security and safeguard the global economy from collapsing. Hence, they must diversify supply chains, invest in local chip manufacturing, and foster collaborations to minimize these risks. By taking these steps, countries can enhance chip supply stability and ensure the smooth functioning of industries worldwide. And now, we invite you to share your thoughts about this in the comments. Do subscribe to the channel if you like our content. We will catch you in the next one. Bye.